our second presentation of the day. Awesome. All right, Sarah Bell of LeapSheep. This. That's, yeah. Maybe that's why I wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Bell. I'm the head of research and on the branding team for LeapSheep. We're a subscription platform that supports startups and business builders to succeed. Before I start on our vision, so just so you know why I'm here and what I'm interested about before I start. So I've been working with LeapSheep for about 6 years now. I love absolutely everything I do at LeapSheep, and we're all, actually I'll start with it. We're all about radically transforming startup and innovation success rates globally. So really helping startup founders and business builders to be successful. For the last 6 years, we've basically been working with startups. We've kind of really tried to deeply understand the problems that they have, and we've worked on working with those startups. Now we're looking to kind of get out into the community more and meet people. Like we validated the problem that we're solving, and now we're moving into kind of how we tell our story and how we meet people and expand. And so I'm interested in two things. One, feedback. Like I'm used to being on Zoom. I'm not used to presenting to people in person. And so I'm interested in feedback on that. And second, I want you to ask me really hard questions so that I can have practice in answering those questions and explaining more about our story. Okay? All right, now, what exactly is a startup? Christy challenged me on this yesterday, so I've added it into and a startup is very different from an entrepreneur. It is basically an organization that's formed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. So it's kind of a completely new kind of business where one doesn't exist before. For example, for us, we consider ourselves to be building a completely new business model. Most startups are not used to paying a subscription for startup support. They might go to accelerators, they might go to investors, and get help in that way. And so for us, this is a new model, subscription model. Okay, now if you look in the media, so great segue, thank you, Melody. If you look in the media, it looks like startups are getting funded everywhere. You know, TechCrunch, many publications are full of these headlines. You see people getting millions and millions of dollars in funding. So you see, there's money around and people are getting it. But this is not the reality for most founders. Every month, about 420,000 startups are being formed all around the world. But over 75% of startups fail catastrophically, and about 95% fail to have any sort of return on their investment. And all of this is for many avoidable reasons that true experts could know and predict. Now, the current solutions that there are available for startups don't really help. You have companies like Y Combinator, so an accelerator, one of the best known accelerators that there is Y Combinator, Andreessen Horowitz, which is a really well-known venture capitalist firm, and many people have heard of Harvard, Stanford, all of these kind of universities with this amazing help if you can access it. But it's extremely competitive to get into any of these business models. Kind of less than like 4.01% of founders can actually get this expert help. And for everyone else, they can use consultancies, or they can pay software developers, marketing agencies. But it's difficult to assess the quality of those services. And so you have startup founders or new entrepreneurs, and they don't know what they're buying, and they don't know what they're going to get as a result, or whether it's going to help them. So our kind of key premise is this: world-class startup support is inaccessible to 99% of founders. So just a bit about LeapSheep and how we think that we're disruptive. So this is going on soon. Let me see if I can rewind it. Okay, so in the same way that industries like publishing, advertising, all moved in the last 10 to 20 years away from expert lived experience, which resides in kind of a very few people who have that amazing expertise. We think it's moving from that to a system where software, data, and algorithms are also powered by people, like not losing the human touch, is actually going to mean that startup founders everywhere can access weight loss and health for a very affordable subscription price. So a little bit about LeapSheep, and then I'm going to talk about one of our frameworks, which feeds really nicely from what you talked about, Beverly. So at LeapSheep, we provide bite-sized help, what you need and when you need it. So we basically work with any founders, as well as entrepreneurs, small business owners, exactly where they are, whether they have products, whether they have any customers, whether it's just an idea, or whether they've got a big team and they've got money. And we help them to go from where they are to where they want to get to, which often is around scaling their ideas, but often like social impact and to help people and to build a better business, like the idea I had Beverly for finding journalists. And we've got a number of ways that we do that. So over the last 6 years, we've done a ton of research and we've worked with paying startup customers to design out these pathways. One, innovative, which is quite a well-known, if you're a startup founder, the innovators, who are your customers, what are their problems, what's your solution concept? That is well focused on by a number of existing solutions. But we also work across other areas of the business. So how do you operate marketing and sales, PR and other aspects of this? And how do you build a team? How do you know who you need and when you need them and where you get them from? And really importantly, this last one, capital. Like, how are you going to access the money to help you to move forward? Is it through investors? Is it through grants, funding customers? And each one of these pathways we built out into milestones that you can take or leave as you need them. Now, right now, the way that we offer this service is through a combination of things. Mentoring by professionally trained startup advisors, education, so just-in-time education in bite-sized chunks so that you're not overwhelmed by information, and then also coaching so that you can put it into practice. We also have a big focus on community, so who can we introduce you to, whether that's founders, investors, and then the last two, so services and assessments. Services where we do things for startups, so we help them to build their pitch deck, help them with research, and assessments, like how do you know if you've done enough to go out and raise customers successfully. That's kind of where we are now. Now I'm going to take you into some of these pathways, and I've purposely lined this out because if you're to see our pathways in their current level of detail, it's overwhelming, as Christy discovered yesterday. But our pathways are built so that kind of all of the things that you might need to know have a logical steps through them. And I'm going to focus on this one, the story brand canvas, which if anyone was there last week, I did briefly talk about this, which is why I brought it here. Now, the story brand canvas has been designed by Donald Miller, who's written a great book about storytelling, really compatible with what Beverly just said. And so what the story brand canvas does is it enables any business owner to think and to tell stories about their customers so that they can resonate and connect. Media is one great way of doing this, but there's also things like, what's your website saying? What do your proposals talk about? If you're doing anything in social media, like how are you focusing on the customer? And the canvas itself is based on the premise of telling stories. People will resonate with stories, they listen to stories, and they can remember stories. So how do you put this, how do you work with this canvas? So you start with a character, and the character is always your customer. It's never you and your business. Your customer is your hero, and you want to explain and think deeply about who they are. And really importantly, what problem do they have? Is there a kind of an internal psychological problem? Is someone worried about not having the skills or the capability to get something done? And do they have an external problem? So COVID, for example, was a big problem for a number of businesses. Who is your customer and what is their problem? And what's the impact of that problem? Then you want to establish and set yourself up as the guide. You've got empathy with the problem. Perhaps you also have the problem or have experience with it. But then also you have credibility and understanding and experience. And so Beverly, you did a great job of explaining and setting yourself up as a guide in the presentation you just did. Okay, and then The next bit is around giving them a plan. So, do you meet with them first? Do you talk with your customer about their problems? What is the plan to help them to be successful? And I keep using the wrong button. And then lastly, what's the call to action? So is it to book a meeting? Is it to visit the website? Is it to sign up for a free newsletter? And then really important here is how can you help your customer or your potential customers visualize what success looks like if they work with you? And also, how can you help them to understand how you want to help them to avoid failure? Now, the reason I've gone through this model is just to show you this is the type of thing that we have, bite-sized education. It comes there's a model, we have guidance and practical step-by-step help, and we also link all of these things together. And one of the crucial things that we should help individuals with is the unknown unknowns. So you may not have known that this framework existed, and you may also not know how to connect it with things like understanding of who your customer is at the beginning, and then also how to put this type of information on your website, in your marketing materials, and also when you're talking to journalists. This is a great framework for actually building that empathy and credibility. And this is all part of a system at LeapSheep. I feel like I practiced that better than when I just said it. And just to conclude, we don't just work with startups, we work with small businesses and entrepreneurs who perhaps want help to move their businesses forward. We work with investors, helping them to make decisions on companies that they've invested in. We work with universities. We've worked with academics at universities to get them thinking commercially about how they use their research to make social impacts. And we also work with established businesses who might be looking to pivot or change the way that they run their businesses. So I'll finish here. Don't know how I've gone with the time. But the two things I'm seeking are the challenge, ask me some hard questions, because we're not used to having to speaking in public rather than on Zoom. So I'd love to have some challenges about what may or may not work about our model. And I'm also seeking connections. Are you values aligned? We're really, really focused on startups and entrepreneurs and helping them be successful. Are you values aligned? Are you belief aligned? Do you think that this approach and systematization is the direction that the startup ecosystem is going in? And then also referrals. Does anyone know founders that actually really need help to either stay in business at all or to scale? Having to have a chat with anyone, no obligations. And yeah, ask me some hard questions.
Thank you. I have a question, right?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was wondering, so at the very end, you focus on startup, but then at the very end, you start talking about existing businesses, and these might be businesses that are post-revenue through operations and actually work with customers, right?
Yeah.
So if someone comes to you and you have this kind of array of different services and different steps, how do you know where to drop them in and where is appropriate for you to engage them?
Yeah, great. So we have a process that we use at the moment where we start with establishing need. So understanding, I'll say it as I'm doing with you.
Yeah.
So we talk with you about your context, where you are, what your current situation is, where your biggest impediments are, and then also what your vision, your goals are for the future. And then from that, we take all of the information with our pathways and we design you a plan. So we tend to set goals, let's say 3-month goals, and then we will then structure the mentoring and the education so that you can reach those goals. And then it continues on and on.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand right. So if you at any point in their journey and connect to your system, and then you have these interactive lessons. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Where they can learn what they need to know for their step. And then what happens?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's where we are now and where we want to get to in the future. So right now we do everything manually, so kind of supported by a person like me or another business building advisor. And so we run the sessions kind of in person or on Zoom, supported by PowerPoints, a bit like the Story Bank canvas. And so you've got the, and in terms of the education, which I think is a lot of where you're talking about, we go through the models and how to set it up. And then we give you the guidance, the templates, so that you can then implement it and embed it in your own business. And so we kind of work step by step based on what you need at the time. Our vision, though, is that we will, and one thing that we're working on at the moment is building all of what we have, like the system and the templates and the guidance, into a portal experience so that anybody can access it anywhere in the world and kind of get that bite-sized help, but unguided by an individual.
Question. So, just mentioned YC, like, started a lot of like accelerators and incubators. Wow. Do you think that they started, they connect founders and teams with investors? Why is such a thing? Innovation?
Yes, we do. We are at an early stage of developing that. And it's one of the biggest problems that we see is founders who are trying to connect with investors. And they, I spoke with a founder yesterday and she's contacting 50 investors a day. And as soon as she pitches to them, they tell her she's too early or she hasn't got customers or then she's not in the right industry. And so that's the biggest problem that we're trying to solve is those connections. And YC can do it because they have an ecosystem built up. They've built it over time. But if you're not in that ecosystem or you're outside of Silicon Valley, Tel Aviv, London, it's extremely hard to find those connections. So yes, that we are doing that in a small scale way at the moment, but it's something that we will look to build out.
I started to use mostly in the C stage, probably recently,
Any stage. So our only requirement is that people we work with have a growth mindset, that open to learning, to being coachable, but also to sharing back with us what does and doesn't work. We work across any industry, any technology, any stage.
So follow up on that.
Yeah.
Like myself as a life coach, I didn't talk about like what is someone like you. We have a lot of single solopreneurs. They have their business at very stages. So just to clarify, would a solopreneur, someone like me, someone that you help?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any stage.
Literally any stage. And one of our core, so all of our content at the moment is targeted and focused on startups because that's our core customer, and particularly reality business startups. So startups that they're kind of having problems with difficulties and they know that they need help and they're willing to pay for quality support. Having said that, we've used our models with academics, with federations and associations, with established businesses, and it works. The language is different, but it does work.
How do you do it?
We're a subscription, so we have kind of, various pricing options, so that people can access the type of support that they want.
Okay.
But this is one of. Say again.
Like all in order.
Yeah. So it's a baseline subscription, and then people can pay more for services like us, help them develop their business model and pitch deck, so that we can help co-design it, and then at the end, it's very much a start pitch.
Is the subscription a month-to-month type of thing, or is it a long-term contract, or?
Yeah, great question. So our minimum subscription is 3 months, but many of our customers have been with us for 2 or 3 years, and they can kind of go up and down the subscription level if they need it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you started sort of thinking about startups, and then we started the presentation talking about how a lot of startups fail. A lot of the reason that a lot of startups fail is that the ego of the founder creates a new concept to take to market that is unrealistic. And they have no one to actually hold them accountable to that because they surround themselves with unintended sheep who keep that concept moving forward by helping their business grow. And really the cheese in the middle of it all is the idea itself. How do you help founders with that?
So Great question. So great question. And the honest answer is that right now, those founders are unlikely to want to work with us. Because one of the things that we do through the mentoring is challenge. So we have worked with founders who have, let's just say, quite big egos, and they are almost always going to succeed to an extent. Like, there's loads of people with like Harvard connections, micro connections, who are just, they're getting access to funding. Like, the CEO of WeWork just instantly got like $50 million, I think, from Andreessen Horowitz. He's one of our core people for an idea. Like, no one else, apart from someone with those connections, would get that. So that's always going to be there. But our hope is that by helping individuals without those connections, without those egos, we will build and create a system so that more of those people can be successful. And then hopefully we'll change the ecosystem so that people look less at ego and dimensions to see value. So I need to think how I answer that, because that was a very good question.
Okay, awesome. And Sarah, you definitely were very clear on what you are looking for. So please think about anything good. How can people get in touch with you?
So when I saw Beverly's slide, I thought, focus on the content and then forgotten my contact information. So if you want, I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn in particular. If you just put Sarah Bell at LeapSheep, you'll get me. I also did the big business parts. So one of the challenges of being in person is I can't just add that information. So
right, add it to the chat. Well, and we can add it to for our online community. And then, so what can the 1 million cups community for you? I know you're asking connections, those founders, and then any email feedback, things like that, if anyone has that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm definitely interested, especially if you've got any things that you found kind of, what's the word, like objectionable. Like if I said anything that made you go, oh, because sometimes it's hard. I can pick up on it when I'm interacting one-on-one, but if there's anything I said that you thought that doesn't feel good, I'd love to hear that. And then, referrals. If you know anybody that needs help, and then also to your point, like we're actively seeking investors who are willing to invest in a different way in new types of companies, particularly in startups who are really focused on customer problems. Because that's one of our biggest challenges. Is right now we're building the pipeline of startups, but we are struggling to find investors who will invest in those startups.
I love it. The growth mindset, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like these two presentations, authenticity and growth and like actually connecting with someone who can help you and understand you. I feel like there's a lot of deep spirit today, but I love it. Awesome. Okay.